So this is Becca Stevens, and you are with Thistle Farms out of Nashville, Tennessee. You're president of Thistle Farms. And what else? What other titles do you hold? I have a list here that I could read, but you are an impressive individual. So what titles are you most proud of?
I think I'm a priest, I'm an author, I'm a speaker, I'm a mom of 3 boys, and I'm the founder of Thistle Farms. I'm an avid walker. I don't know what other titles. Those are good. That's plenty.
Yeah, well, the CNN 2016 CNN Hero and White House Champion of Change. That was a title that stuck out. Yep, things. Tennessee Women's Hall of Fame.
Yep, you got a lot of them on there. Yep.
I do. Yeah. And then the priest. Talk about the priest. Which
you should silent your cell phone.
I did.
I'm just
thank you.
Cut. Start over.
Which denomination are you a priest?
I'm an Episcopal priest.
Okay. All right. So, are there a lot of female Episcopal priests?
You know, when I was growing up, there were 0. And I was a math major in college. I didn't even think about priesthood. And I met my first priest, who was a woman, in 1981.
Okay.
And thought,
here in Nashville.
And I thought, man, I could do that, because that kind of fits everything I wanted to do, which was really all about entrepreneurship and freedom, but in community. And priest is a good role to kind of start with, to have doors open to you and to try to figure out your way.
Why do you say that? Like,
because no one really knows what priests do. You know, I mean, it's like, you know, you could kind of create things, you could foster a community, and that's kind of what I did. So right when I started, I got ordained, and then I started as the priest at Vanderbilt University, being a chaplain. And people really don't know what chaplains do. Right. And it was perfect, because I had this beautiful A-frame chapel, and I could go in and I could sit. There was probably 6 or 7 people that would come by. And so it was like, you could just, no, like on a Sunday. Like first service, there was nobody that was a part of it. And it was perfect for me, because it was like, what do I want to create? How do I want to be in this world where it matches kind of my ideals, but it's also a really practical way to do it. I mean, when you're a priest, you have health insurance. You don't have to stress.
Right.
You know? I mean, it's perfect.
Yeah. So you were at Vanderbilt University. How long were you there?
I've been there. I never left.
You're still there? Okay.
But I don't do it very much anymore, because I'm mostly on the road or doing this work. So I probably show up once or twice a month for Sundays that I'm in town, and offer a good word and love everybody and keep going.
So I'll ask some different questions about being the female, being female as a priest in Tennessee a little bit later. But tell us a little bit more about Thistle Farms, because when I was listening to your book earlier of Love Heals, it was so the concepts and what drives you, your driving force of love, is really what has always drives your life, it seems, and drives your passion and drives what you create. So
thank you. That's very nice.
Well, it's obvious that that's what you're doing. Like, you're loving people, and you're really making an impact, and you want to make a difference. And so because I growing up in Nashville, I heard about Thistle Farms, but I didn't know really what it was and what kind of impact it was having. And here we are today. I just had this amazing lunch in this beautiful environment, and now I get to talk to you, who created it, and everything's just really lovely about it, which is my daughter's name, Lovely.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
it
so
is.
beautiful.
Yeah, because we love her so much, and we love so much. But
what's your boy's name?
Daggert.
And what's that from? Because you daggered him so much?
My husband. I don't know. My husband was like a creative, and he thought it would be a good boy name. His middle name is Rebel. Daggert Keith Rebel Brister. We feel like the world's going to need rebels in the future.
And Lovely, what's the rest of her name?
Camille Lily Mae.
Camille Lily Mae. So Lovely Camille
Lily Mae Brister.
Lily Mae Brister. Wow. That's beautiful.
Thanks.
So yes, love is a huge part of what we do. And love is a huge part of how I understand healing happens and how we move in the world. What I didn't know when I started is love is a really good business model, that love is a really good community organizing tool, that love is a really big concept. And so sometimes when I look back, I thought love is really sweet. You know, like it's a beautiful, sweet concept, and it's like, no, it's huge, and it's, you know, it's led me to a global organization, just to kind of fit into what that means when you say, like, I want to be loving and compassionate, and at the same time, I want to be, you know, nimble and economical and, strategic. I want to be all those things too. So what happened for me, and it's really not apart from the priesthood stuff, when you were saying we were moving on, because what happened for me was I remember being a young priest and people having some issues with women priests. And in my head, I'm thinking just how unloving that is, and you know, like, this is ridiculous. And I said to somebody, I was like, it'd be much easier for me if you just closed the Bible and hit me with it.
Yeah.
Like, just go ahead. If you're not going to be loving, go all the way.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And what I just didn't want to have the conversation anymore about defending myself. I just wanted my actions to speak about what it is I believe in. And, you know, all along the way, I think, you know, I've been ordained 28 years. And all along the way, I think I've believed less and less things. And what I'm left believing, I'm free, and I believe with all my heart, and I want to live into it. And the biggest one really is that we have to love without judgment, and we have to practice hospitality to people, and we have to grow into what it is that we want our life to be like. And so it was all about being practical and consistent and specific about how we love, and not like this theology or this dogmatic thing.
Shallow.
It just doesn't do anything for me. I'm a very hands-on, tactical person.
Yeah, like when you get a facial, you want to feel it.
Yeah. I don't want you to talk about my face, touch it. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. And so that translated well. So when I was at Vanderbilt, you know, and when I first started, I knew I wanted to make a really loving, beautiful sanctuary for women, all of who had criminal histories of addiction, prostitution, trafficking. And I just thought, I don't want it to be a system. I don't want it to be an education system. I don't want it to be a treatment program. I don't want it to be a shelter. I don't want it to be a religious organization. I just want a home that's beautiful and loving for women. So we invited 5 women to come off the streets and move in. No authority in the house. You can come live free for 2 years, and we'll just find whatever it is that you need to do your healing work. And consistently, the women that we've served, I mean, they're first rate between the ages of 7 and 11. First hit the streets between 14 and 16 years old.
First rate?
First rate between 7 and 11. And so it was like, you know, we have to have this beautiful and loving place so people can, you know, feel what it is to be loved.
Right, because they've never felt it.
And people all the time say people need a second chance, and it's like, I promise you, I think for a lot of the women it's their first chance. You know, and so you can't do that and then give them a really crappy bed and not have any money and not have any of the services. You know, it's how loving is it to send a woman on a job interview with no teeth?
Right.
So let's get the dental work, and let's get your meds right. Let's find out what your personal goals are. You know, you want to be a nurse, I want to be a gardener. It's not the same thing, so let's figure out what you need.
Right.
And then it was about 4 years into it that it was like, oh my gosh, we keep talking about how we love women and how it's loving, it's all these things, but everybody's dirt poor. So again, how loving is that?
Right.
And so that's when the economic piece came, and we started making all the all the bath and body care products that you see, and thinking, okay, we can just start our own company. We're a mission with a company, not a company with a mission. We wanted to make things because we love women. It's not that I wanted to make all this, and so I hired a bunch of women. And so that was, to me, the loving thing to do.
I like that, mission with a company.
I didn't make that up. It was in a Forbes magazine article about a month ago.
Okay. You
Full
can claim
disclosure.
it though. You can
Full
Who
disclosure.
said it? Do you know?
Forbes magazine.
Nobody else
It was an article, and it just said, what Forbes said was that they believe that we are so successful because we're a mission with a company, not a company that's manufacturing a mission.
Yeah. Well, and do you think that that's what society and humanity is really craving, are companies that are a mission with the company?
Absolutely. I think we crave it. I think everybody's craving meaning and connection. And, you know, for us, I think it's also what women crave. They want to decide what clothes their kids wear.
Yeah.
What kind of car they drive.
With the options.
With
and
options
opportunity.
and where they live and how they dress. I mean, what they eat. All of that people want. And
Do you
so
feel
it's
like
very,
you give that to them through
for sure.
them with the fruit of their efforts, right?
More than $2 million went back into survivor pockets last year from this work.
That's awesome.
More than $2 million. That's a lot of choices people get to make of how they spend their money and what they do.
Yeah.
And, you know, we now have a 401k for people. That's basic what people want.
Right.
You know, we have, you know, vacations. We have all of the things that
How many
people want.
employees do you have?
I think we have about 100. I keep
Okay,
kicking you.
that's
I'm
okay.
sorry. We have about 100.
Camera can't see it.
We have about 100 employees, and close to 70 of those are women who have graduated the program or are residents of the program.
Yeah, very cool. At US Pest, one of the things that we're a pest control company, but we're on a mission to save the world and save humanity, but we don't know what that means yet. So we're drawn to you. We're drawn to initiatives. We're drawn to things that aren't typical in normal
I think I know what it
business.
means.
What?
I think what it means right today, just when you say that, what it means for me is that we remember that the biggest investment you can make in a community is the women. All the data shows it, that if you invest in women, you help heal communities. The truth is, you know, you rape women, you kill villages. You heal women, you heal villages.
Right.
And to me, it's not like you go, okay, I love the whole world. That's so sweet. It's like, but I love you specifically.
Yeah.
And that looks specific. And so it has to be small communities of women who are coming together that make those choices and do that work. You know, so it's survivor artisans, it's survivor leaders, it's women who have done this hard work of what it looks like to restore their own lives and the lives of their family and to go back and heal some of the oldest scars we have in this world. And then it translates. I mean, I have a million examples of how I've watched it play out. We just opened our first justice social enterprise in a refugee camp in Greece.
Is that a new term? Justice social
I'm just making
enterprise?
it up.
It is really cool. I wrote it down before here. Justice entrepreneur.
Yeah, because I'm thinking that it's like
Did
just
that
to
come
say,
from
just to
That's
say,
so cool.
just to say social enterprise to me means, of course, it's social. It's an enterprise. I mean, how are you going to have an enterprise that's not social? And justice is always social.
Right.
So to have a justice enterprise means that the mission of the company is the workforce in my mind. It's really a justice enterprise where we're concerned about the producers of the products or the services.
Right.
So we opened our very first one in a refugee camp. So these are all women survivors of the Syrian, you know, just genocide that was happening when they were, you know, using chemical warfare on children. All these women and kids fled. The husbands had fled before, and they come to this camp in Greece, and then they shut all the borders so people aren't leaving Greece. So we decided, let's start an enterprise there in the camp. It's 2017. So we go into the camp and we say, we're going to hire 9 women and they're going to weave. And the weavers are going to weave all the life vests they escaped with and the blankets they received into these beautiful welcome mats. And everybody said, you can't do it. If you do it, you'll have a riot. If you hire 9 refugees out of this huge camp, you're going to have a riot. If you, you know, pay women refugees, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to do.
Who was saying that?
Oh, all these huge NGOs, all, you know, I mean, huge. But we did it,
Right.
because we can.
Right.
And we did it, and so you think, okay, well, that's just helping 9 women in this camp. How is that helpful? So the 9 women, it took about, by the way, about 10 minutes to organize the women.
Right.
They were all very, very excited,
Yeah.
very open. You know, and they
Like,
do.
absolutely.
Yeah.
They didn't hesitate.
And it happened that People Magazine did a story on it. They were able to, I think about $150,000 has gone back into the camp. In addition, the women have paid for buses for the entire camp so that people can get out of the camp and go to Athens and get what they need from an actual city instead of being stuck in the refugee camp. So all these people who were all kinds of things before they left Syria. You might have had, you might have been a hairdresser, I might have had a
Right.
coffee shop, whatever. 5 new businesses have started because somebody goes to Athens, like I'll buy groceries, bring them back to the camp, resell them, I'll open a coffee shop. This economy starts to grow.
Right.
And it's not, if you go over there now, it's like, it's still awful, it's still a refugee
Right.
camp.
Yeah.
But there's life and there's activities and there's things for people to do
Right.
and to have meaning in our lives.
Commerce and make money and
all of that
provide
stuff.
for themselves.
And it's not, again, it's maybe save the world's not the right thing I'm thinking of. Maybe it's more tend the world. How do I tend to the world?
Yeah, one of the things that you said and that I heard you say is that one at a time. You have to do it one at a time because we believe that you have to. You can't manufacture love. You can't mass produce love. It has to be done one at a time, and I believe that you believe that based on what I've heard. And the saving the world is one at a time.
And it's how we experience love too. It's like if you put out a poster saying you love the world, that doesn't really mean anything to me. But if you are being that consistent, loving presence in my life, it's like I totally believe it. And I think it's funny too that it's like when you do justice work, like if you're a mom to 2 kids like you are, you don't have any problem lavishing love on 2 kids. It's like, well, there's about whatever, 1 billion children in the world, but I'm okay with loving a couple of them and thinking I'm helping loving the world.
Right.
And I get this all the time where people are like, well, you only have like 6 or 8 people in this house, 8 people in this house, 5 people in this house, whatever the number is in all the different houses we have. And it's like, it seems like it's a lot for a small group, and it's like, that's how we love.
Right.
I could open it could be institutional, it could be prison. That's not loving.
Right.
You know, it's mass production.
Can't do that.
I can't, because I feel like it's kind of violent.
Right.
But what we've done is we've set up a network so that we have this national network. So we have 5 houses in Nashville, but across the country now, there's about 70 sister organizations.
Okay.
And there's right at 40 houses open. And those 40 houses might be 6 women in New Orleans, 10 women in St. Louis, you know, and you could just go all over the country and map it out. So the idea is that we now have 250 beds.
Right.
That are long-term free beds.
All across the country.
All across the country without authority in the house. And these small communities of women, they're killing it. I mean, they're doing beautiful work. And
Are they making this kind of stuff
there? Yeah, some of them have their own justice enterprises. Other folks are just trying to figure it out still, but they're doing the housing. The main thing is the housing component first. We say housing first.
Are those houses donated? Do you buy them?
Each community is different how they do it. So in Dallas, they might have gotten a grant and bought a house. In New Orleans, there might have been a vacant house from Katrina that they renovated. I think that's how they did it. It's different in every city. Okay,
and they're all being trained. How do they find the house?
Who's they? The women off the streets?
The women that need to have access to Thistle Farms. How do they find you? How do they know about you?
You know, we have like 100 women on our waiting list, and we cap it at 100. Women do find us. And our biggest, there's 2 really big sources of referrals. One of them is social media.
Okay.
So like when people become social media advocates, tell the story, somebody that knows somebody that needs help finds us. They definitely find us. And the second thing is the women who are graduates themselves. Reach back. They reach back. And they're like, we got a plan, we got a way for you to come. You know, because, you know, everybody has criminal records, not everybody, but almost everybody does. And so they also know another 100 women in prison.
Right.
So getting the word out's not a big thing. When I did that CNN Hero thing, we got more referrals than donations.
Okay.
Wow. I know. So it's like you end up with more work, not less.
Right. But you can do it.
We're working on it.
Yeah, you can do it. Y'all are going to make it.
Yeah.
It's good. Sure.
Oh, we're definitely going to make it.
You have some tough women, though, that come in.
Very tough women that come in. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I remember the very first time it was our first house. There was only 5 women, and I wanted to take them on a retreat to a cabin out in the woods. And I remember thinking, like, I have never felt so safe in my entire life. I'd double dog anybody to come up to this, dare anybody to come up to the door. I mean, it's like, it does feel like they're very tough, surviving women who are also the most vulnerable.
Right.
I mean, in a million different ways, whether it's the violence and vulnerability of poverty, whether it's the vulnerability of believing all the lies you've heard since you were a kid, whether it's because there is so much trauma in your life that things can set you off and you can, be vulnerable to all the traps out there for people.
Yeah. Is there anything that you're doing proactively, like in the school systems yet?
We do all kinds of stuff. So we do education, training. We partner with a ton of organizations that are trying to do preventative stuff. We feel like one of the best gifts is that we allow people to have the conversation.
Yeah.
One of my favorite stories, this was like 2 weeks ago, this is really fun to me. So a mom, I was at a conference, and I speak at conferences or go speak places, and I said to them, look, if everybody that said they loved us bought our soap, we would not have to raise any more money. They say you're like, oh my
Where
gosh,
can they buy your soap?
You're such an inspiration, and then they go to Target and buy their soap. And it's like, just buy your soap.
Where can they buy your soap?
They can buy it online. They can buy it
Where
at
is
a store in Nashville. Where's it online?
Just do the .com so they know where to go.
Thistlefarms.org.
.org.
Thistlefarms.org.
Okay.
But so I said this at a conference, and I got an email 2 weeks ago from a woman who was at the conference, and she said that she heard me, and she went online. She bought the soap and the hand lotion. It's in their bathroom, in their kitchen. And her 8-year-old son and 12-year-old daughter, they were using it, and the son comes out of the bathroom and goes, I smell like a hotel. Oh. And she said, that's very important soap that you're using. And she got to tell the story about Thistle Farms to her kids in a way that they could understand it. And also to say, a lot of bad things happen to kids, and this is a very safe place. Anyway, and now the kids talk about their important soap.
Oh, nice.
So that's what they've called it, that their kitchen soap is their important soap. And they tell it to people who come in their house.
Yeah.
And so what I think is sometimes it's not even like you have to have the talk or you have to do this dramatic thing, but sometimes just saying, we recognize brokenness and we recognize it with our kids, and we are being a part proactively helping.
Right.
By using this soap, something so little and something not scary for kids. But it's also reminding them it's like it's not a fair shake for everybody.
Right. Yeah, and it's more. There's more. It's more than just soap.
So the important soap, that's the main thing. I just love that email. I'm like, we should do a whole marketing thing around.
Absolutely. The important soap. I think that would be a good marketing campaign.
It'd be good for your kids.
Yeah, it would be. Well, we'll have to buy some soap, JK. We need to buy some soap before we leave. Okay, so one of the questions I ask a lot during these podcasts is, how do you feel like being a female? Because we have the topic of being female is in the news. We have the Me Too movement that's happened. We've had the, it's always been there. And I know that you referenced that being female, but do you feel like being a female has helped you in being in leadership?
Do I think being female helps me in my leadership? I don't think about it that much just because I am what I am.
Right.
But I think my, my story is that I had sexual abuse in my life too. So my dad was killed by a drunk driver when I was 5. And then it was one of the pastors in the church started sexually abusing me in the church about the age of 6 till about the age of 9. That was hugely formative, the trauma of the death and that coming back to back. And what I've learned, though, is that I can draw on that period in my life as a lot of strength. And I don't know that that would have been the same story if I hadn't been a female.
Right.
Growing up, I was raised by a really strong single mom because she was 35 when my dad was killed. She raised 5 kids.
Okay.
And it was just like she got it done.
Yeah.
She was one of those people, very, she was amazing. Just a beautiful, creative, positive person.
Yeah.
So in addition to some of the trauma, I had some real strong women role models.
Okay.
So I think the combination of those two things probably informs my leadership. And it also gives me a little bit of credibility with the women. It's not foreign to me. Like, I can talk about trauma.
Right.
And I'm not talking about it in theory. I can talk about poverty. I mean, we were very poor once that happened.
Yeah.
And I mean, so I can have those conversations, and I feel like, you know, I don't have to have anybody question it. Like, what makes you think you can do that or something? It's like I can go on the streets and talk to the women, and I'm not intimidated by any of that stuff.
Right.
So sometimes I think it wouldn't be just that I was a woman. It was a woman that had gone through sexual assault and sexual assault at a pretty young age that really informs my leadership. But it's also part of what makes it hard sometimes, because, you know, I get like, authority's not really a safe thing for me. It makes sense I had to start something on my own.
Right.
Because it's like people telling me what to do makes me crazy.
Right.
I mean, it's really hard. And so to get creative about it and do it in a way that's healing and helpful.
Right.
But I've always believed that if I can get to a place where any of the brokenness I have can be transformed into compassion, I can be a great leader, because I can have tons of compassion for people.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if being a woman helps me in my leadership, because I don't know how I would be a leader if I was a man.
Right. Yeah, because it may have not, I mean, for one, you may not have been sexually abused, or you may have been, and it may look differently.
It may look differently.
Yeah.
But I love being in a mostly women-run organization. Our CEO now is a man.
Okay.
The CEO of Thistle Farms now is a man, and he's been great. He was scared out of his mind to step into it. But he's done a beautiful job. Yeah. And we need good men in this community too. We need really good men.
Right.
So we're trying.
Yeah, that's good. What about from the alternative question to that is, do you think being female has hurt you in any of your leadership roles?
Probably.
Yeah.
I imagine it has. I imagine maybe I would have made, you know, more money. Who knows?
Either in perception or in people's perception of you, or your own perception of.
You know, well, I mean, I used to think though, like when I had little kids, I don't know if you ever felt this way, but I used to think like I would show up to work, especially in my role as priest, and everybody would be coming in at 8, and I was so like frustrated. I was thinking, I've been up since 4 with kids, you know, nursing babies and doing all this, and no, not late, but I'm like, I'm already tired. It's 8 a.m. and I'm tired, and I'm starting work. Yeah. And I don't know that all my male counterparts who had kids had that same experience.
Right.
So it's just that was like going through all that, and having 3 babies, going through all that, I think is a lot for anybody.
Right, it is.
And I think sometimes fundraising might look a little bit different about how people donate money to women versus men. But I think it's changing. I think all of that's changing, and it's okay. I mean, I don't think about that.
Yeah.
And I also think sometimes that being a woman was critical, because I was going in women's prisons, and I was, you know, when I'm doing that work, you had to be a woman.
Right.
So it wasn't a man job. What I created wasn't a job for a man to do. Now, running a company and a business, yes, men and women can do it together. Right. But at the beginning,
well, a woman had to do it.
A woman had to do it.
Yeah. And for future leaders and future female leaders specifically, I want them to be able to hear that that the reality of leadership is leadership. There is what you're saying, that the fact that you had to be a woman in order to accomplish that task and that leadership role. Now you're in a position where it could be male or female, and you understand. But some of the rawness that you're talking about with leadership and the female component, they're real questions that people have about leadership that they maybe don't even know to ask, or even know, but they know that they've been told that they can be president one day. But no one talks about what goes on between the ears in leadership being female, except for what you see on Facebook or what you see on the news. So the reality and rawness that you're talking about is useful. That you're not completely clear, right? And that's okay.
And I also think too, the things that I've learned as a woman going through this process is one is like, forget balance. If you're talking about leadership, don't think about balance. Just that's just another stress
about work-life
word.
balance?
Yeah, like
Right.
all
Does
of
that
that
even
just,
exist?
You know, but it's also like, then you think like, oh no, I'm doing it wrong because I'm not balanced. And I do better if I think about it's just a kind of a surrender. And I surrender to what's in front of me for the day. I have acceptance and I tackle what's ahead of me.
Yeah.
You know, I've come to believe in my leadership that my vision has been way overrated. Like, your vision of all this, your vision, it's like, there's really a community of people, like you get ideas.
Who said that about
I mean,
your
people have
vision?
said a lot about like, you know, tell me about your vision. And I just think vision sometimes is overrated in leadership. And I think sometimes sweat equity is underrated.
Right.
Like you show up,
That's
you
true.
do the work, whether or not you're inspired, whether or not you're imbalanced, it's like you do it.
Right.
And then it becomes a leadership style.
Right.
Like I never like had a leadership style, but it has become kind of a style.
Right. Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I
not
get
to
it.
put up with a bunch of crap, not to like if you want to torture me, make me sit through a strategic planning
Oh my
for 3 years
gosh,
strategic planning
yes.
session with 20 people. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense.
Because
Yeah,
it's like
absolutely.
it's not. No one's ever even going to read this again. Probably. I mean, they will some, but not like 12 months out. It's worthless almost.
Right.
And it's a nice exercise. But what I really love is the idea of like, okay, this is a new place that I'm feeling led. Let's figure out the pieces around it, get a community
do it.
together, and then let's just start doing it
Do it.
before you get too lost
Right.
in it. Like we've had so many organizations who have had, I don't know, 1,000 meetings on what they're going to create,
Right.
what the structure
Right.
is,
Having a
what the
meeting
business
about the
plan is
meeting
like.
about the meeting.
Show me what you've made,
Right. And what you're doing.
and it's like nothing. We meet.
Right. Isn't that horrible?
I can't imagine
Right.
it.
It seems like hell to me.
I agree.
That seems like torture, for sure.
So I like the idea of leadership being this hands-on place. Leadership being not afraid of new ideas, not afraid to let other people lead.
Right.
You know, when that's not your, you know, skill sets. Like, don't be afraid of that either. Like, you
Right.
can be a really good leader from behind.
Right.
And just like the cafe, like I've had nothing to do with it. I wanted to open a cafe. I wanted to open a cafe because everybody was coming to see us, and it felt like we should feed them.
Right.
I know nothing about food, nothing about cafes. I've had nothing to do with it. Not even
That's awesome.
like the chairs or the paint color.
Right.
Like, I don't need to have anything. I can just walk in there and marvel at what people have done.
Yeah. Whose idea was that
Of what?
for the cafe?
Well, to start it?
Yeah.
I had the idea to start a
Okay.
cafe, but that was my contribution. We should start a cafe. There goes my entire contribution pretty
Yeah.
much. I mean,
And
I
they
got
took off with it.
Well, yeah, and
Yeah.
it's gone through 2 renovations because it's outgrown itself twice. And
Yeah.
it's like, we had 70,000 visitors in the last year to that
Wow.
cafe. And it's like, there was a need for it. So I could sense a need for it, but it's like, to me, saying we need a cafe is not very visionary.
Yeah.
It's more of the practical leadership part of
Right.
it. And then the vision of how it unfolded. I knew I wanted teacups in there. I said that
Right.
because
Saw that.
we wanted these healing teas that's all about producers and teas. And we wanted to say that the idea that there's a story in every cup.
Yeah.
But that whole vision of those teacups that are in that wave in the front
Right.
and how they do all that, nothing to
Nothing.
do with me.
But you pointed out that we needed a cafe.
That's exactly my gift right,
Right.
there. I'm hungry. We need a cafe.
Yeah, but that's that was in 2013, right? Yeah. So
And the very first funder we went to said, no, you do not need to open a cafe because what you do is good, but that's a whole different ballgame. You don't need to do it. And I kept thinking, if we had a cafe, we'd have a lot more people in here.
Right.
And then we had this little shelf where people bought products inside the cafe. And then there was a whole committee of people that knew interior design, could really raise money, could do all this stuff. And they're the ones that came up with the whole the storefront saying, you
Yeah.
don't need a shelf to buy stuff. You need a whole shopping experience.
Right.
And they did $1 million just out of the shop last year.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, it's amazing what a community, I mean, I really do believe that a community together, I mean, it's amazing. And
Yeah.
part of the leadership is knowing, like, ooh, not my gift. I need to stay out of the way.
Right, but you can say that that's what we need. You can point them in the right direction.
Yeah,
That's
and
good.
the other thing I think is people get tripped up is when they think they can't do that. They can't let it go enough to say, like, okay, I'm not going to decide who's the chef. I'm not going to decide the menu. I'm not
Right.
going to decide, you know, all the details and all the. If you're not going to run it, then you don't get to make those decisions anymore.
Right.
Letting that go is hard for people.
Yes.
Especially with a lot of leadership skills,
Uh-huh.
is to say, like, I don't do that. I don't, you know, like I have, like
not my
somebody
strength.
said, yeah, somebody says, like, you know, I really need a job. Can you hire me? It's like, I don't do it.
Right. Yeah. You don't
Because if I
hire.
do it, that means then I am running it and leading it in that way. So if I don't
Right.
want to run it and lead it, then just don't have an opinion.
Right. So you have to hold back on getting
Oh my
involved.
gosh. Because I have tons of opinions. Oh, I have 1 million of them.
So where do you get that out? Because you got to get it out. I got to get it out. When I feel that way, I'm like, I want to say something, but I can't say it. Do you start another project?
Well, you know, I do think I go to bed with more ideas than I wake up with most of the time. So maybe that is what I do. That may be an insight for me. Thank you. I don't know. I just don't. I mean, I just think I don't do that. I don't do that. You know. You know, and I keep thinking, like, I want this space to be
here we go.
so much more. Well, I want it to be really interactive and not just have a couple images on the wall,
Right.
but be a place where people can really engage. And I have thoughts on that. And what I've realized is, like, again, I don't want to run it, so I'm going to let it go.
Right. But
you
you can
know-
tell people.
Yeah,
And
I
they'll do
can-
it, probably.
Hopefully, we'll see how it goes.
Well, do you want to finish what you want
No,
in here?
I probably know. It's a distraction.
Yeah, shiny little things. Yeah. So one of the things US Pest has done that has
So what is
turned
your
out-
role in US Pest?
So I'm the president and CEO of US Pest. We're a family-owned business, and
Are you a part of it too?
Yes, it's my husband.
But so what's your role?
I'm the Chief Growth Officer,
Excellent.
Sales and Production.
Encourager. He's the chief
For now.
encourager. We play around with titles at
For
US
now.
Pest. Yeah.
I'm the Master Encourager.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, do you work with them
Titles don't
too?
mean much
Yeah.
to me.
Everybody works for US Pest. Gotcha.
So they came about as they've been with us for about a year, and JK said, we need a marketing team. He was in Florida, and he called and said, we need a marketing team. I'm like, you're right, we need a marketing team. So these, Sarah's not here, but Sarah and Kaylin Parker are a really close team. They did not hesitate about the opportunity to come work for a pest control company and be a part of this cool marketing component that we're starting. So we have an artist background, and we are artists. That sounds like we're not artists anymore.
Yeah,
You said,
business,
yeah, because that's where what makes us a little unique is our artistic perspective. And so the Honey Festival, the Tennessee Honey Festival, have you heard of that? So that was a conversation that was started from going to a beekeeping class and then hooking up with a beekeeper. And now we are the world's only bee-friendly pest control company in the world.
That's so great.
Yeah, thanks. But that's the artistic, like, conversation, like being who you're born to be, like, and growing where you're planted, and just because the opportunity to operate a family business, like we didn't want my dad to sell it, so we were like, okay, so how do we be who we're born to be and still?
I'm totally signing up.
Okay.
You have a new customer.
Yay! Wait, for pest control?
I need spider control.
Okay.
But do you do it where it's not so toxic, where we're all gonna get cancer?
No.
Yes, I do. Actually, yeah, we do, and we have a vested interest. She's right on. That's what people care about.
That's what I know.
Yeah.
Stop! I'm serious. But what were you gonna say? I have to. Sorry, you're
gosh, I
shedding
know, I am
everywhere,
shedding.
and we're doing this podcast. I just feel very sad.
Thank you.
Okay, done. Wait, there's one over there.
That was his good.
We need a roller brush next time. So the dicamba that they're putting on our food, you've heard of that? So it's Roundup.
Yeah.
Roundup.
I've never done Roundup.
Okay,
I
so
know.
Just act like we're not here because we do that. Yeah. So,
Well, I told you I had ADD,
yeah.
so I have to listen.
That's why I've been standing here doing.
I do that. I mean, as soon as you talk, I'm there. No problem. Okay,
So
Roundup.
dicamba is what they put on products. Listen to how crazy this is, because this is an additional conversation that's going to be happening outside of the Tennessee Honey Festival. But dicamba is a product that they put on the agriculture, and it's Roundup, and they grow seeds that are Roundup resistant, so they can put dicamba on on hundreds of acres of crops, and it will kill everything but that crop because it's genetically modified to be Roundup resistant. It will kill a tree, it will kill everything but the crop, and then we're eating that. Like,
That's awful.
Isn't that horrible? And then we've got, so the Tennessee Honey Festival is the focus. We believe the highest standards didn't exist in our industry, so we created them. We created a new standard for the pest control industry. And the Honey Festival is going to go nationwide, but it's starting right here in Tennessee. There's only 3 honey festivals in the entire country, and that's California, New York, and Tennessee now.
We never get that threesome.
Right? Right?
It's always like, the last 3 states were Mississippi, Alabama, and Tennessee.
But the response is that everybody is they're very health conscious. They're very aware. People are very, and what makes U.S. Pest unique is our service offerings.
Look into the camera as you're saying this.
I say this all the time.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm telling you. What makes U.S. Pest unique and different, really, is that what people are paying thousands of dollars a night for at luxury hotels is to feel the feeling of being heard, to be paid attention to, which is the same. It's love. It's kind of like love. It's kind of like they feel they're seen, they're felt, they're heard. That's really important for people to feel heard, because when someone says, "Oh, I need a new pillow," and someone magically shows up with a pillow, like, you're like, "Oh man, that $1,000 was worth it," But someone that pays for $15 a month for pest control, not that we're that cheap, but if someone had to have pest control, we would offer it to them for $15. They deserve the same amount of attention as someone that has thousands of dollars. So that concept, along with hearing what society wants from a conscious company, which is missions with the company, that is where we're going. I know that's where we're going. It is value-based organizations, but it's more than value-based. It's like, what are you doing? Which is what you're talking to. Like, what are we doing? Like, less talk, more action. Like, it sounds pretty. I love the writing.
So you don't have really scary chemicals in your stuff?
We do, but we apply them correctly. Yeah, we have scary chemicals. We kill off the plague, for goodness sakes,
Yeah.
Like, we protect your family from the plague. We protect you from brown recluse and black widow and fungus and all kinds of stuff that can cause death. But we apply it correctly. We don't spray the blooms. We're not spray jockeys. We don't over apply. We're not gouging customers. And you like us. And you love us when we come out. And we love you, and it's, it's a relationship. So we don't use green products, unfortunately, because they don't work. I wish they did, but they don't. But we apply them correctly, and we apply them in a conscious way. So
it's less cancer.
Yeah, it is. It's safer.
It's integrated pest management.
Yeah, IPM. It's been around since it started. So
Yeah.
it's kind of it's just
Specifically, we have 1 million spiders.
Yeah. Do you know if they're brown recluse? You don't
I
know.
don't think they're brown recluse. They seem
Are they
very
inside?
open. They're everywhere.
Everywhere.
No, not like on our downstairs porch and the outside of the house.
They're outside mostly. So do you leave your lights on at night?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, we can talk about it. Let's finish this.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Okay.
I'll sign
So-
up for it.
That's good.
Yeah, it is good. But one of the things you can do is turn your lights off or put in yellow lights. And then we can also treat your home and make sure that we make it less
Just write
conducive.
down there the number I'm supposed to call.
No,
How long
I'll
was it?
call
Okay.
you. I got your number. I'll
Okay.
take care of you.
Okay.
We'll take
I got you.
Okay. Perfect.
So let me ask you this, and then we'll start to finish up because I know that you're busy. I'm sure you got somewhere you got to be, and you got ADD, ADHD.
No, I can do. I don't have to leave till 2.
Okay, cool. So is there women in being, I know it's prevalent in men too, but women can sometimes have a tendency to fall into being a victim mentality. Have you ever felt yourself starting to go into, because you're obviously not a victim because of the way you carry yourself and the way you talk, I mean, you can tell that you're not a victim, or at least consider
Tell me
yourself a
what you
victim.
mean by victim mentality. So I want to know what that
So,
means.
like, for example, like I could have. There's lots of challenges that you run into being in business in general, and when you're growing a business, and you're dealing with people, and you're loving on people, and then let's say something happens, and you have an opportunity to choose either I'm a victim of what has happened to me, or I'm going to take this and use it differently than being a victim of it. It's going to empower me and help me and change me and influence who I am. And so have you ever felt, have you ever seen a point where maybe in your adult life where you could sense like you wanted to go into, like for me, I would say there's been times like where people have, where you do love on people so much, or you give so much, or you have so much time dedicated to people and attention dedicated to people. But then if when they turn around and maybe you get burnt, right? I can tell that's my experience when I have the tendency to want to be a victim too. But I've done so much, but we've done all this, right? But what I find is that it's, if I can take a deep breath and realize that it's learning for me in that capacity, that it's helping me be more observant of what to do and what not to do in the future, as opposed to sinking into the victim mentality of I suck. And do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I don't think I have that or tolerate it very well.
Right, good.
But I think here's what I think is like, especially in this work around the community that I'm with, like you can pour your heart into a lot of people, and it may not go well for some people. And the whole point is in the gifting, not in how people receive. I mean, I totally feel that. Like, so somebody doesn't understand what the gift was of this community or this opportunity, and they made some really bad choices, and it's like, that is really not on me. That has nothing to do with me. I am called to offer the gift.
Yeah.
And I can really do that and go like, God bless you on the journey. And I really mean it. I don't have that. But I know people who have been real victims, whether, they're walking around with a hijab on in Nashville, Tennessee, and they've gotten some people throwing rocks at them and mean things, and you think, like, I don't know what that's like to be hated for who I am. Like just because I'm an immigrant or Muslim and people assume something about me. And so I really feel for people when they get that kind of reaction. And so I'm always cheering for the underdog, not the victim, but the underdog.
Yeah.
And like, okay, this is a safe
There's
place.
a difference.
There is a difference where something bad's happened. And it's like, we're going to really use this for the for the good, for the greater good. And we can figure this out and how to do it together. So I've seen people who have, many, many women that I've served have been victims.
Yeah.
But they're not victim mentality.
Yeah.
That bores me.
Yeah. Yeah. Why?
Just because even if the healing is like, here's one particle in this mass of trauma, just today I'll do this particle, tomorrow the next particle. You're moving, there's something good happening. But if it's we're just going to stay in the muck and just be re-traumatized and triggered and over again, it's like, I just can't. I can't go down that journey.
Right. Can you?
And I also think it's passive aggressive a little bit.
Yes, I agree with
I
you.
do.
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
I agree. Like,
Okay.
we're not, when I spot it in our operation, I'm like, people know, like, there's no victim, like, no victim zone around me.
But it's like that, or it's like, well, I can't say anything because then this, or I can't do this because of this. And it's like they're having these conversations, and it's like, no, that the invitation is to let's talk about it.
Right.
And let's move on and go with it.
So you're empowering them.
Hope so.
Hope so. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, for sure. There are victims out there,
Yeah.
and I mean, you're a victim of, when you were a child. That you're a victim there. What I was referring to is it can become a lifestyle.
Yeah.
With that mentality, and it can be passive aggressive. Okay. Last little bit here. What is something that you used to believe that you no longer believe?
There's a lot of stuff.
Because you said you believe less at the beginning.
I would say this isn't about, as a priest, I'm a professional religious person. And so most of it is about the institutional beliefs, not about religious beliefs, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
About the structure of church, about the
Ceremony.
ecclesiastical hierarchy within the church.
Right.
About what people define as heresy within that institution, where you don't have the freedom to say, I have my own individual relationship and thoughts about how this should be. So I think for me, really, it's more of institutional beliefs versus religious beliefs. And that's really hard because I'm in a very hierarchical ecclesiastical church.
Yeah.
I mean, we have bishops and priests and deacons and elders and lay people. I mean, there's a lot of it, and I think sometimes, like, it doesn't make any difference.
Right.
Like, I don't believe that anymore.
Yeah.
It's like we are, all believer, priesthood of all believers. Like, we should be able to share and be free and preach and teach. And that's hard to translate within an institutional system. And I also think that because I do really believe in love without judgment and radical hospitality, that definitions around salvation don't work for me anymore within those institutions about that there's a secret formula, and if we can memorize that formula, then somehow you got the key.
Is that a thing?
That's definitely a thing. Are you kidding?
Is that a thing? Well, you would know too. I don't know what that thing is. I've never heard
I'm
of
just
that.
saying, well, I mean, I don't want to go into it, but it's like, if I can pray in the name of the Trinity, if I can do this, if I can confess this, if I can say this, then I'm in the saved group. I really just want to say, God is love. I love you.
Yeah.
What can we do together to be with each other and on this journey of helping a lot of people? One of my big spiritual practices is reach back.
Okay.
Which means that it's not just about you getting off the streets or out of prison. It's really like you need to reach your hand back and just welcome the next person. You have to welcome the next person, because that's what healing looks like to me, and that's the stuff I believe. So, like, one of my absolute favorite scriptures is the story. Well, there's two, but one of them is the lepers. And when one comes back and gives thanks. And the response from Jesus is, your faith has made you well. And he equates gratitude with faith.
Yeah.
That's powerful stuff to say. Like, if I can just get thankful, and help the next person, I'm good to go.
Your faith has made you well.
Your faith has made you well.
Yeah.
You remember to say thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then the other one that I really, really love about, like, letting go of a lot of other things is when they're getting ready to head out on the journey, and Jesus says, consider the lilies of the field. That's so radical. Like, those are the weeds, the lilies of the field. It's not what we put on our altars or in our bridal bouquets. Those are like the little lilies of the field, or little wildflowers. They're just weeds. And the idea of just taking those into consideration before you head out. The things that people said don't have value. or that we have deemed as not worthy. Consider those things first. And that is the most radical way to walk out in this world. And it reminds you we don't have to leave anybody behind. We don't have to say, this is worthless. We can do something beautiful when we consider it.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what I'm left believing, those kind of small scriptures that free me up to be more loving.
Yeah.
That's what I hope.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah,
Hope.
that's
But I
good.
don't know,
No,
but
that's
it's hard.
beautiful.
Right, but I'm just saying, within the institutional church, that doesn't get you very far.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, no,
And
it's
so-
religion and institutional, right?
Right.
The word institutional is a lot staler than the word religion.
Right.
Yeah. So, but a lot of that's manufactured, and
But I don't want to offend you in any way. If I've
you
done
can't
anything.
offend me. I'm married to him.